Are you tired of your career?
God, yes.
Going on those long commutes to work, working those long hours just to get underpaid? I was exactly like you guys. If you're looking to get into a lucrative career like software development and work remotely so you can spend more time with your family, then stick around and watch the whole video through. I'll be going through exactly what I did to get my first remote front-end developer job and how you can follow my exact roadmap in order to do the same.
Cool.
Let's get started. The first thing you need to learn is HTML. So what is HTML used for? Essentially, HTML is used to structure and organize content on the web. It allows us to create different types of content, such as headings, paragraphs, links, and lists, and to be able to really structure that in an appropriate way. To get started with HTML, all you really need is a text editor, which comes default with any computer. You'll start by creating a basic HTML structure, which starts with an opening and closing HTML tag, a head section, and a body section. In the body section, you can add various types of content using HTML elements. For example, to create a heading, you can use the H1 element. To create a paragraph, you use the P element. And to create a list, you can use the UL element for an unordered list and an OL element for an ordered list. HTML also has something called attributes, which allows you to add additional attributes to elements. For example, you can use an href to add links to your content or an src to add images to your content. Another really important part of HTML are IDs and classes. An ID is a unique identifier to really single out one element on your. A class, on the other hand, can be used to reference many elements on the page. Both IDs and classes can be used to apply styles to certain elements or to target elements with JavaScript. So now, what is CSS? CSS, or Cascading Style Sheet, is an essential part of web development. It's the language you use to style and lay out our web pages and making them look and feel just the way we want it to. Now you're probably thinking, style and layout, that sounds boring. But trust me, contrary to popular belief, CSS can be actually really fun and could be something that you could specialize in. With just a little bit of creativity and some grit, you can design and make professional looking websites in no time. With just these two tools, HTML and CSS, you can pretty much replicate any website that you've seen so far. The basic syntax of a CSS role looks like this. We have a selector which tells the browser which element we want to style, and a declaration block which contains one or more declarations. Each declaration consists of a property and a value. So for example, let's say we want to change the color of a paragraph on our web pages to red. We will write a CSS rule like this. This rule has a P selector which targets all the paragraph elements on the page and a declaration block with the color, property, and a value of red. CSS can be applied to HTML in three ways: inline, internal, and external. Inline CSS is written directly in the HTML. Internal CSS is written in the head of the HTML document. And external CSS is written in a separate CSS document that's linked in the HTML document. So just for more examples, some of the more basic properties is color. As you saw in the earlier example, color is used to change the text color of an element. But color can just be used for more than just text, obviously. You can use it to style the background, borders, and even when you want to change the color when someone hovers over an element. Say, so for example, if you have a box on the screen, you can, if someone goes and moves over that box, you can style it so that the color just changes and different types of things happen. Now on to CSS selectors. CSS selectors are used to target a specific element on the web page. There are several different types of selectors: element, class, and IDs. Element selectors are used to select elements based on their tag name. So for example, you use the P selector to style all the paragraphs on the web page. Class selectors are used to target specific classes of elements. So if you put a class on like a series of elements, only those specific ones will be targeted. ID selectors are used to target a specific element with a certain ID. Now that we know how to target some of our elements, let's move on to layout. CSS provides several layout models that we can use to create responsive and flexible layouts. The most basic layout and the one that's applied by default, block model. In this model, elements are displayed as blocks that stack vertically on the page. The inline model is similar to the block model, but elements are displayed in line and take up only as much space as they need to be. The flex model is the more advanced layout and my personal favorite. It allows us to create flexible layouts that can adjust to different screen sizes. By using these layout models, you can create a wide variety of layouts for your web designs. Now this is where we get to actual programming. So this will be your first programming language. Web development is all about learning JavaScript. JavaScript is a programming language used to execute code on the web. It's a versatile language that can be used on a wide variety of tasks on the web. Anything from animations to form validation. The basic syntax of JavaScript is very simple. Like, it's one of those more easier ones for beginners to learn. JavaScript is also an object-oriented language, which means it's based off the concept of objects. Let me explain. Objects are a collection of properties and elements that can be used to represent like real world entities. You can create an object to represent, say for example, a car, with properties like make and model and methods such as start and stop, if that makes sense I guess using that kind of example might make it more sense to you. Now, another important thing that relates to JavaScript is document object model, otherwise known as the DOM. The DOM is a representation of the structure of a web page. It allows us to use JavaScript to access and manipulate the elements on a page. So we can use the DOM to add, manipulate, modify any elements on the page. For example, if you wanted to change like the paragraph size or the text size, or if you had like a box in your web page, then you can like kind of shrink it or open it up. Or if you wanted to add a new paragraph to the page or add more colors to the page and things like that very dynamically, DOM manipulation is a huge concept that you have to get down. Now that you've learned a little bit more about the DOM, now you can go more into handling events. So what are events? Events are actions that take place on the web page. Say for example, hovering over an element or clicking on an element. Those are two typical events that happen. So we can use those kind of events and create JavaScript actions that are applied once those events occur. So for example, we can use an event listener to create a pop-up window that happens only when the user clicks on a specific button. Handling events are really important for you guys to get down, and it's really the only way for things to be interactive for the user. Now let's talk about somewhat of an advanced topic, asynchronous activities. Asynchronous programming is a technique that allows us to program concurrently instead of sequentially. This is useful when we have to perform a task that may take a long time to happen. Say for example, if we're making an HTTP request to a server, or if we have to read a large file. In JavaScript, we can use async, await, or promises to handle these type of events. Async or await is a syntax used to make it easier to work with asynchronous code. It allows us to use the await keyword to pause the execution of a function until the promise is resolved. Promises are objects that represent the result of an asynchronous function. Now we can move on to testing and debugging. These are essential and sometimes overlooked when you're trying to learn how to use JavaScript. It ensures that we're using our JavaScript code as intended. By using tools such as the browser's developer console and other debugging tools, we can find and fix errors and improve the reliability of our code. Now as a front-end developer, you have the option of using frameworks to help streamline your development process and to create bigger and more complex projects. There are several different types of front-end frameworks that you can use, each with its own unique features and benefits. One popular framework that I use and would personally recommend is React. React is a JavaScript library that is used to build user interfaces. It was developed by Facebook and has gained a ton of popularity in the recent years. One of the key benefits of React is its flexibility. React is designed to be used in a variety of contexts, from simple websites to more complex single-page applications. It's also easy to learn as a self-taught developer and has a large community behind it, so if you have any questions or concerns, you can always ask them on forums or Discord chats and someone will always be willing to help. But before you use a framework, you really have to get down JavaScript and manipulating the DOM down correctly, because React works by creating a virtual DOM. So if you don't know what these things are, it kind of becomes confusing when it's time to apply it. So it creates a representation of the DOM and only manipulates the elements that need to be changed. This can make your application faster and more efficient. Other popular frameworks that you can look into on your own are Angular and Vue.js. Each of these frameworks have its own unique features and benefits, but they all have one thing in common. They're all built to make it easier to make these complex front-end applications. Now that you know what you need to learn, what you have to do at every step of the process is create some sort of personal project that you can use to apply the concepts that you've learned in a more practical way. This way, by the end of your learning journey, you'll have quite a lot of projects to show employers about how well your skills are and what you can actually accomplish. But in order to show them that, you have to have a GitHub account. GitHub is a web-based platform that allows developers to store and manage their code repositories. At its core, it's a version control system that tracks any changes that are made on your code. This is a must-have tool in your toolbox that is used throughout the industry. Using GitHub and how to use version control is an essential skill that when you go into your first job, it'll be very helpful for you to be ahead of the game on that end. It's probably one of the first things that I should have mentioned, but I wanted you guys to get an idea of what you needed to learn so that you can actually upload to these repositories and kind of create your own coding projects. If you guys want, I can go into a little bit more detail about this, but you have to hit the like button and hit subscribe as well for more content. Until next time, I hope this video was very helpful for you guys, and I'll see you next time.